What is the meaning of this mysterious symbol found in Peru? How does it relate to the Inca? And how does it help us understand the beliefs of ancient South America? This is the Chakana, also known as the Andean Cross. It's been described as the most sacred symbol in all of Peru and is one of the oldest symbols used by the indigenous people of the Andes Mountains. The Chakana can be seen carved into stone across the region dating back thousands of years. The Spanish invaders tried to destroy it, but even after 500 years, the symbol still lives on. To this day, it remains a common sight, appearing everywhere from textiles to jewelry. The symbol has many names and many meanings, but in today's video, we're going to find out what the Inca called it and what it meant to them. Chakana is a Quechua word that roughly translates to cross or crossroads, but its shape reveals a much deeper meaning. The symbol has 4 arms extending outwards from a central point, with each arm representing something different. The arms are joined together at the center, which is often a triangle, and are superimposed over a third line that extends from the top to the bottom of the symbol. This forms 6 equal sections, which are sometimes referred to as petals, rays, or rungs. The meaning of these individual components might seem obvious, but when combined, they form a powerful image. The horizontal lines represent the earth and the sky. They are connected by the vertical line, which represents a mountain. From this perspective, the Chakana is a map of the world, showing how the earth and sky come together in the mountains. It shows how the physical world is sustained by the spiritual realm. In fact, the name for this center point is Wakana, which means world in the Quechua language. In other versions of the symbol, the arms extend beyond the horizontal and vertical lines, reaching up towards the sun or down towards the underworld. This version has 8 sections and is called a Chakana Puma. Like the phallus, it connects the upper and lower worlds. The extra arms may represent ancestors who have passed on to the underworld. In this case, the phallus acts like a bridge, connecting the land of the living with the land of the dead. The Inca believed that their world was held in balance by a universal energy called K. K comes from the Quechua word, Capac, which means leader or sovereign. Inca mythology tells how the hero deities, Manco, Siarpac, and Mama Oclo, emerged from the underworld, Poche, and began to walk across the earth. Wherever they walked, they emitted a force called K, which created valleys, rivers, and lakes. When they reached Lake Titicaca, their power created the first Inca emperor. Their descendants would go on to rule the vast Inca Empire until the Spanish arrived. They believed that it was their duty as the Sapa Inca to maintain cosmic order, which included keeping the horizontal and vertical lines of creation aligned. By maintaining this alignment, the Inca ensured that the world continued to function in harmony. When the Spanish came, they destroyed every monument they could find that had a likeness of the Inca gods. The Spanish invaders were particularly fond of destroying Chakana symbols because it represented a worldview that was completely different from Christianity. It was an icon of paganism and needed to be purged from the landscape. This led to the near destruction of the Chakana. But the indigenous people of Peru kept the tradition alive. They concealed their sacred symbols, passing them down through oral stories and weaving them into everyday objects like textiles and ceramics. Even though its usage declined throughout the colonial period, the symbol never disappeared entirely, and now we see it everywhere. During the independence movement in the early 1800s, rebels used the Chakana as a symbol of native pride. They drew strength from the history of their ancestors and wanted to free their lands from the control of Spain. After independence, the symbol started to appear on coins, postage stamps, and government buildings. For many, this was a way to show loyalty to their country and to reconnect with their cultural roots. In modern times, it's become a symbol of Pan-Americanism. It appears on the flag of Bolivia, as well as on buildings, statues, and flags all across Latin America. But let's go back to the Inca. We know that they saw themselves as intermediaries between the spiritual and physical worlds, responsible for maintaining cosmic order. We also know that they performed ceremonies at sacred sites. But there is some debate as to whether the Chakana was actually used during rituals. Some sources claim that it was used to mark ceremonial roads or paths that connected important sites. Others say that it was used as part of the Incas' astronomical observations. The Inca worshipped a supreme creator god called Inti, who was associated with the sun. The constellation of the Southern Cross played an important role in Inca religion. It was said to have been created by Inti to guide his children across the sky. Every year, the Inca emperor would celebrate the winter solstice with a ceremony at the temple of Coricancha. He would use a staff to trace the path of the sun in the sky, and then sacrifice animals to Inti, thanking him for returning the sun's life-giving rays. Other Inca rulers followed this tradition, and each ruler built new temples to keep the tradition alive. The Chakana was thought to be one of these instruments used to track the stars. Its 6 sections may have helped priests measure time or predict natural events like floods, droughts, and earthquakes. Some historians argue that the Inca didn't have a written language, but others say they did have a type of knotted string called quipu that was used to record information. If you want to learn more about quipu, make sure to check out my video on the subject. Either way, the Inca likely observed the stars and charted their movements using tools like the Chakana. The constellation of the Southern Cross was particularly important. Each point of the cross represented a direction, and together they symbolized the union of the physical and spiritual worlds. The Inca believed that everything in the universe was interconnected, and that they had a responsibility to maintain balance. Using tools like the Chakana, they studied the heavens to make sure that the earth and sky remained in harmony. But it wasn't just a tool. The Chakana was also a religious symbol. It was associated with the divine king, who was considered a descendant of the sun god, Inti. The Inca believed that the king had a special connection to the spiritual world and that he was responsible for keeping the two worlds in balance. He would perform rituals and make offerings to the gods to ensure that the universe continued to function properly. The king was also considered a judge, a lawmaker, and a father to his people. His job was to protect his subjects and to make sure that they lived in harmony with each other and with the natural world. We can see how the Inca viewed the king in the way they dressed him for important ceremonies. He would wear a special tunic that had a Chakana symbol on it. This showed that he was the representative of the gods on earth, and that he had the power to connect the two worlds. The king would also wear a hat that had a large triangle on it, which represented the center point of the Chakana. This symbolized his role as the center of his empire, the one who held everything together. The Inca kings took their responsibilities very seriously, and they knew that they had a lot to live up to. They were expected to be perfect in every way, and they were constantly under pressure to perform. One of the most important things that the Inca kings had to do was to keep the cosmic order in balance. This meant that they had to make sure that the earth and sky were in harmony and that everything in the universe was working the way it should. If the Inca kings failed to do this, then the world would fall into chaos. The Inca kings also had to deal with a lot of pressure from outside forces. They were constantly fighting wars and trying to expand their empire. At the same time, they also had to deal with natural disasters and disease. The Inca kings were true leaders. They had to be brave, intelligent, and just. They also had to be able to connect with their people and make them feel like they were being taken care of. Being an Inca king was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of honor. The Inca kings were considered to be the chosen ones, the ones who had been put on earth to keep everything in balance. Today, the Chakana is still a symbol of hope and resilience for many people in Peru and throughout Latin America. It reminds them of their ancestors who suffered during the colonial period, and it gives them strength to continue fighting for their rights and their culture. Whether it was used during Inca rituals or not, the Chakana holds an important place in the history and culture of Peru. It's a reminder of the Inca's deep connection to the natural world and their belief in the power of the cosmos. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. If you learned something new, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I'm working on more videos about pre-Columbian America, and I think you'll find them interesting.